Second.
Second.
And move to second. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We're gonna go start right off on old business, and the first thing is a real estate contract for the old town office. You ready for that, Denny?
Yes. The real estate contract?
Yes.
Yeah. As you know, the real estate contract for the sale of the town office lapsed on January 1, or January 2, I think it was. So I requested at the last meeting that we decide what you want to do. Do you want to extend it? Do you want me to do an RFP? What do you want me to do with the real estate contract? I know there was a lot of discussion at that meeting when I provided you guys with an email, but essentially it was around, well, wasn't there a buyer and all of that? Well, Huang, a realtor, had come in and talked to me 3 different times about the facility. And they, at the last time that they came in, I asked Gary Fuller to come in and talk about some of the issues. They were concerned about the right-of-ways. The one right-of-way could be sold. I told them that. It could be bought. The other right-of-way couldn't. But in the end, they just, she had her builder with her, the contractor, and then she decided that it was just not worth the amount of money she thought she was going to have to invest in that, with the limited parking, the right-of-way that was imposing on her sign that she planned on putting there, and the interior being having to have a rehabilitation that had to be done. So she just kind of mixed the whole concept at that last meeting. So now the issue is, do you want it to go back on the market with a realtor? How do you want to select that realtor? Do you want me to RFP? How do you want to do it?
I don't think you ought to spend any money on an RFP.
Okay, so you want me to find a realtor and extend the contract?
I would probably just extend a contract.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That was the only issue with that, yes.
But it's up to the rest of the people, yeah.
What about the price? Should we look at adjusting the price?
The price that you had set was $110,000. I believe Days came in July of last year, requested a reduction on that. The board indicated you wanted to stay at 110, and you would revisit it at some point in time.
Well, we can always go down on the price, but we can. Let's start someplace.
We'll stay at 110.
You want to open a bank branch?
What's the feeling of the board?
Drive through only a lovely kiosk.
What's the feeling on the board? What would you guys like to do? You want to
Extend the contract.
extend the contract?
I'd like to.
What do you want to do with the price?
I guess I'm in favor of finding another realtor, right? I mean, instead of extending it with the same realtor. You know, I guess at this point we could, you know, maybe list it at 100 instead of 110, and because we're not going to get anywhere near 110 for it. We know that. I'm guessing. I mean, it seems, and the longer we hang on to it, you know, probably the worse off we are. So I guess I'd make the suggestion that we'd, I guess I'd make the motion that we list it with another realtor, maybe another local realtor. You know, there is another local realtor.
There's 2 of them.
Yeah, we could try that. And I just think some realtors are more apt to, you know, beat the bushes, and some aren't. And you know, we've had 2 in town that had their chance. They didn't take it. I mean, anybody can lower the price and sell something, but you know, the sellers here are the taxpayers, and they want to get as much as they can for it. So, you know, work with us and try to do it, and find a realtor that believes that way. But let's be realistic. I mean, maybe start at 100 and then consider offers from there.
I believe we've already had 2 or 3, or maybe even 4 realtors now, and nobody's done much. I can tell you.
We've had everybody in town other than.
We had 1 out of town
We had 1 out of town, 2 in town.
because they told us they could.
Liz Fontaine's group is the only group we haven't had.
Is that the one you're kind of indicating you'd like to do?
Would you say there's 4 of them in town?
Well, I was thinking there was 4, but I think there's 3.
3 right now.
I can't think of the 4th, that's fine.
Has it been a
We had Days, we had
Yeah, we had
They had
days.
Lakeside and,
Lake
Lake
Point.
Point,
and Lake,
Lake Point, not Lakeside. But the only one we haven't had is
Lakes.
Lake Home.
Lake Home, yeah.
Give them a chance, I guess. Why don't we give
Well,
them
I'll
a
find out
chance?
if they wanna do it,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, have them take a stab at it.
you guys have to.
Is that
That's fine.
So that's the motion on the
motion?
floor.
Motion, I say we go after Lake Home, see if they wanna do it. And get some advice from them on where it should be. I mean, I'd be in favor.
I'll bring it back.
Yeah, bring it back.
To explore the possibility of Lake Home taking it on
Yeah.
this
Yep.
as a potential.
So do I hear a second on this?
I'll second.
Okay, and moving a second. Any more discussion on this?
Question, it's been appraised? When was the last time it was appraised, that building?
I don't know, it was listed at one time.
I don't think so.
It was listed at one time, as far as I remember, at 200,000 back in the 2007-8 timeframe. I think, that's a number I remember, but I can't tell you, I don't think we've had it,
No.
so.
Maybe Liz can help us out with that.
So it's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion on this? If not, all in favor? Let's give it a try. 5 and, okay, second thing is an abatement that we have on here.
Yes, at the last board meeting, apparently there was a question about the abatement number. It was in fact an error, it was two separate. It was an error, we corrected it, but here's the abatement for the
Looks like it's been corrected, so I'd entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I hear a second. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Thank you.
I'm gonna abstain.
You are?
This is a neighbor.
My neighbor.
Okay.
You abstained from the first one. not the
I did.
two.
4 and 1 abstention.
You know, when you abstain, it seems to me you should state the reason for it. Not just a number
did.
vote. I mean, you did in this case, I'm just saying, it doesn't always happen.
Okay, we're gonna jump right into the new business, and I have our bank and trust is here to give her a quarterly update. So we'll turn it right over. Oh, Denny, hang on.
Should I preface this a little bit, if I may?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
We, as you know, we're having our audit now. And audits are always fun. During the audit, the auditor looked at the bar trust account that we had set up. And came back and she had some questions about it that she thought it looked like that we didn't have funds there to expend. And so I had talked to Howard. Howard explained to me how the whole trust was set up, the task that we went through and all that. I believe that issue has gone aside, but I've asked Bar Harbor to basically be kind of there available if the auditor has further questions. So I called up Ricky earlier in the week. I think I put his heart attack, well, I put it at rest later on, but
You need to have a
nonetheless, I wanted to at least find out more, but I wanted him to be aware of it. So if something came up, I could quickly pass it out to others. But I think that issue was resolved, and I just wanted to say that in advance.
It's all yours.
Sounds good. What I thought I'd do is give a brief economic update, where things have been, where we see they're going, and then get into the details of the portfolio. But wanted to open it up for any questions that you folks may have. I know the markets have been pretty volatile, especially in December. So just wanted to open up for any questions, but if there aren't any now, please feel free to ask as we go along. So right now, in the market, again, we saw a lot of volatility, especially in December. I believe the overall market fell in the peak in September to December about 20%. So a fairly decent sized decline in the market. A lot of those jitters were related to concerns over the Fed raising interest rates too quickly. The Fed chairman really did a poor job when he spoke in December. He really didn't do the market any favors at that point in time. That really spooked the markets. There's concerns in China over growth slowing in China and having a ripple effect through the world economy. And then there's also a concern over, are we in peak earnings? Is this as good as it's going to get for corporations with their earnings and their profit margins? So those have really been the major concerns out there right now. And that's really led to the market decline that we saw over the past couple of months. What we try to do is take really a step back and say, where are we in this market cycle? And that was just the one handout that I had right here, you know, just the basic market cycle where you have the recession or the trough, and then the recovery and the expansion, and then again the contraction. So we never know exactly where we are until after the fact. No one knows exactly when we're going to get a significant decline in the market. But we have a general idea of where we are. And we're definitely in the later stages of this business cycle. So we don't know if we're in the start of the decline, if December was actually the start, or do we have another year or two left where the market is going to continue to perform well, and you know, we just don't know. And but we do know that we're in the later stages. So knowing that, we're starting to take a more conservative stance with the portfolio through the types of companies that we're investing in, and also with our stop loss strategy in the portfolio. So we are starting to become more conservative because we know we are getting closer to the end of this market cycle. If we turn the page to page 2 with the 3 pie charts, looking at the asset allocation on the left-hand side, you'll see that we have about 18% in cash, and that's due to our stop loss policy. We were stopped out of 6 names in the portfolio over December and November. And again, that's a strategy where we are becoming more defensive in the portfolio. It's an exit strategy, a way to get us out of the stock market as the stock market starts to decline. So we'll continue. So if the stock market continues to decline, the stocks in the portfolio will become less and less a percentage of the portfolio. And again, that's by design, to become more conservative as the market starts to decline more. And so you'll see that stocks now are about 45% when they were much higher a month or 2 ago. So again, another way to be more conservative. And with the cash, we're still earning income on that cash. Right now it's about 2.5%, which is very comparable to the dividends that you'd be receiving from stocks. So you're not losing really anything by being in the cash. You're still getting income, a good interest rate off that cash as well. With the equity diversification, we are out of the small cap companies. So we're in large cap, international, emerging markets right now. We were stopped out of our 2 small cap names. And again, small cap names, smaller companies tend to be riskier companies. Again, becoming more conservative in this market environment. With the fixed income diversification, not too much has changed there. We're continuing with our same strategy of investing in shorter maturity bonds. And again, we're well diversified with the types of bonds that we're investing in. And just to speak a little bit about the volatility in the market that we've seen. So the ending value for the portfolio at the end of the year was $1,156,000. If yesterday's close was $1,181,000. So just within 2 weeks, the portfolio has gained over $25,000. So when the market starts to get a little skittish, you can see those types of moves in the stock market. It is quite common to see those types of moves when the market starts to get spooked. And you can see this within 2 weeks, the portfolio moved in a positive direction by $25,000. If we turn to page 3, we'll talk about the equity analysis. You'll see the top 10 stock holdings on the right-hand side, starting with Visa. On the left-hand side, you'll see how your stock portfolio is constructed compared to the market or the S&P 500, based on the 11 major sectors. Your portfolio is in blue, and then the index as a reference point is in red. And this is just showing that we're taking an active approach to your portfolio. We're going to look different than the market. We're going to be underweight some sectors. We're not going to have exposure in some sectors. And then obviously we're going to be overweight in others. And that's just a factor of we're going to invest where we feel there's value in the market and where there's not as much risk in the market. So again, just taking an active approach to the investment style. Again, every stock we want to pay a dividend. And again, that's to diversify your returns. So you're not relying too much on price appreciation. You're also getting a dividend, and that's beneficial in a declining market as well too. You're still receiving an income from the dividend, even if we do have that declining market. You're still getting some return there. And then again, I touched on earlier the stop loss strategy or our exit strategy, a way for us to get out of the stock market as the market starts to decline. If we turn to page 4, we'll get into the fixed income analysis. On the left-hand side, you'll see how the bonds in your portfolio are allocated by maturity. So you'll see you have about $115,000 in bonds that are going to mature within the next year. Again, we're trying to keep the bonds with shorter maturities because ultimately we think we're still in that rising interest rate environment long term. So if we invest in shorter maturity bonds, they're going to mature at a faster rate, and we can reinvest the proceeds at a higher yield, capturing more income. At the bottom, you'll see the average credit rating for your bonds, BBB, so high quality investment grade bonds. The average maturity for your overall bond portfolio is a little over 2 years. Just to compare that to the market, the average maturity for the overall market is 6 years. So again, we're much shorter with 2 years, and that's a specific strategy that we're using to help protect the portfolio. On the right-hand side, I just want to point out the market yields for Treasury bonds. So if you look at the 1-year Treasury bond there, it's paying 2.6%. And then if you look at the 5-year, it's paying 2.51. So right now we call that an inverted yield curve. You're actually getting paid less to buy a longer maturity bond. So again, it doesn't make sense to buy those longer maturity bonds in general because we have that inverted yield curve right now. If we turn the page to page 5, we'll review the investment performance. The investment performance, we break it out into 3 different sections. At the top, we have the performance of your account, which is in bold. This is the total account. That includes the performance of the stocks, the bonds, the cash, everything within the account. And then below each section, we put a benchmark as a reference point. And then we also break out the 2 major asset classes, both the stocks and the bonds, so you can see how those 2 major asset classes have performed in your portfolio. So going back to January 31st of 17, the overall portfolio is up about 3 1/3% on average per year versus the benchmark of 4%. So roughly in line with the benchmark. The difference really there is attributed to the stock performance. We had a very strong 2017, and typically when you get a very strong market leading up to 17 and into the beginning of 18, we can underperform by 1% or so in a very strong market environment. Just pointing out the fixed income at the bottom, or your bonds. We outperformed on the fixed income side since inception, 2.27 versus 1.74. That's attributed to investing in individual bonds and hand selecting those individual bonds. and also buying the shorter maturity bonds benefited the portfolio since 17 and also over the past year as well too. If we turn the page, we'll get into the holdings in the portfolio. One holding that we purchased actually this year in 19 that's not on this page, but I'll briefly discuss it. We bought General Mills. It was a recent purchase in January. They have had some struggles over the past couple of years, but it looks like they're turning things around now. They're a more conservative company, especially in this market environment, and they pay about a 5% dividend yield. And they should be able to increase that yield over time as well too. So we're getting a nice dividend yield, and it looks like they will be able to start turning around their business. They recently bought the Blue Buffalo brand that sells pet food. And really their advantage is their distribution network. So Blue Buffalo on its own couldn't get into as many stores as General Mills can. So they were able to buy Blue Buffalo, and then with their distribution network in all of the grocery stores and the Walmarts that they have access to, they can really expand their distribution of that brand and really grow the sales of that brand. So we think it's, again, we got a nice dividend yield, conservative company, especially in this stock market environment. If we turn to page 2 of the holdings, I'll just touch on one bond that we recently purchased in the portfolio. It's actually at the top of page 3. Second from the top, NBR Inc. They're a home builder. They're one, as a public company, they're one of the best home builders out there, if not the best. In 07 and 08, when the home builders were collapsing, they were profitable every single year during 07 and 08. They take a very conservative strategy. They have a very conservative balance sheet, and actually thrived in the downturn of 07, 08, 09, and they expanded market share in their key markets as other home builders were retreating from different markets as well too. So a nice bond. We got it a little under par, so you're getting a little over 4% yield on it, and it's a very solid company as well too. So just an example of the types of investments that we're trying to put in the portfolio. If we turn the page to page 4, I just want to touch on the right-hand side. You'll see the annual income column and the current yield column. So the estimated annual income for this year, looking 12 months forward, is about $35,051. Just to give you an estimate of the type of income you can expect this coming year. It's going to vary a little bit, but it should be pretty close to that number, and that's about a 3% yield on the portfolio. That's all I had for tonight. Were there any questions that you folks had?
Anybody have any questions?
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny?
So, have we recovered from the nearly 20% loss in December?
We have recovered. We're not back at the peak where we
No, we recovered that 35, you said it went up 20, 35,000.
about 25,000 since the end of the year. We had the peak of the market in September. We're not back to those levels. For the market to recover, it does take some time. So we could see another % or 2 down, and then the market starts to head higher. You're going to kind of see, it's.
Are we above the initial investment value?
With us, yes.
Yes, yep. And that was actually that second handout right here. That'll just point out the initial value with the portfolio value and the contributions.
I don't know that they know where that
Oh.
is. It's on the back of the yield curve graph.
Yeah. So this is just a quick snapshot of how your portfolio has performed since inception. So basically, going back to the end of 2016, there was $65,000 that initially came over. I believe that was on December 30th, and then the rest came over in early January. So if you add those two top lines together, we'll say the starting value is $1,166,710. And then you can see the withdrawals that have occurred over the past 2 years, a little over 65,000. The income that you've earned over the past 2 years, just a little over 59,000. And then the realized losses and the unrealized gains, that's the growth or the price appreciation of your portfolio if you add those two together. So if we add those two together, you get a little over $45,000 in gains. And then we have the portfolio fees and the ending value. So if you add the income and the realized and unrealized gains and losses, the portfolio is up about $104,000 from where we started. Just as a reference point.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Those are the same columns that are shown on this annual sheet, same columns.
No, because this is since inception, and that, I believe,
Is
is,
that annual?
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm not talking about the same numbers, I'm talking about just the same colors, sort of the balance out.
I'm not sure if they're going to
It's
be.
not the same, no, I don't think so.
On an annual basis, what would be the difference?
Oh, this is
Yeah, this is just 1
just
year,
2018.
No, I'm
so yes,
just talking about
Yes.
the presentation, I'm not talking about the numbers.
yes. Yes, except we don't have percentages and that
No,
sort of,
it looks like the columns are the same.
yes. That's what.
Oh, I see. At beginning value, withdrawals, interest and dividends, realized,
Contributions.
unrealized management. Yeah, yep,
So you can balance the year.
yes,
Okay.
yep,
That's fine.
absolutely.
And if you took last year's and looked at it with this year's, it'd do the same thing.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
you're very welcome.
Welcome.
Anybody else got any questions for these people?
So are you gonna keep the international stock then, or what is the plan for that?
The international, just generally speaking, the international market, if we're talking about Western European companies or Japanese companies, are generally cheaper and look like they have better valuations than U.S. companies in general, just because the U.S. market has performed so much better than the international market. But the international names, they're names that we like. Really, if we were to get rid of an international name in the portfolio, it would be because of our stop loss policy. So if the name started to perform poorly and started to decline, once it hit our stop loss number, we would do an official review of that company and likely sell, locking in the gain that we received in the company. So it really have to do with our stop loss policy.
It's still 25%.
It is still 25%, but I will say that we have been tightening the stop loss on some of the names to 20 and 15%. So now that the names don't have to fall as far, for us to get out of the market and to either minimize losses or lock in those gains. And that's something that we'll typically do towards the end of a market cycle as well too, because the names are becoming more expensive and we want to reduce the risk in the portfolio.
Penny, did you?
On the very first page where it puts the name of our account and the balance, it says 12/31/2019.
I noticed that.
It should be 8.
Oh, absolutely, because we don't know what the market value will be next year on.
Okay, I thought I was missing something.
I was hoping everybody would miss that.
Didn't we pay extra for that information?
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything? Thank you very much. Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, you
too.
too.
Careful going home.
Thank you.
All right, the next thing under new business is the petition from Ernie. And I guess I'll turn it over to Denny for now.
Right, this involves the petition that was submitted by Ernie Rice. As you recall, you all received an email from Mr. Rice's attorney, Jed Davis. Essentially, what happened was that when we were reviewing the budget and approving warrant articles, the board denied putting Ernie's petition on the upcoming March town warrant. As a result of that denial, Ernie went to his attorney and asked for some advice, and Mr. Davis, his attorney, essentially challenged that refusal as being unreasonable and specified, he pointed out the part law, you've all read my cover thing, and then followed up saying, unless we hear from you promptly that the article requested in the petition will be put on by secret ballot on March 15th, 2019, and notary public will, pursuant to the above statute, call a town meeting for that purpose. Of course, the notary could be used only after a petition was, as I understood it, was signed by whatever the number of votes were at the last gubernatorial election, 175, maybe 10%. But in any case, so I went to our attorney just to see where we stood on that whole thing, and I received. Now this memo came from Bernstein and Shore on the 10th. It was written on the 10th. I got it 2 days ago. It was in my junk mail. I called up today and said, "Where's that memo? I'm having a board meeting tonight." And so they resent it. And I found out later that it was in my junk mail after we researched it. So, I don't know if you've all had an opportunity to read it.
You want to find it from official record?
Well, you can if you want. You want me to read it, or you want me to read it?
I just feel like we should read it since the recording is the official minutes.
Well, let me see how good my public reading is here. Memorandum from Bernstein and Shore. Memorandum to the Belgrade Select Board from Michael A. Hodgins, Town Attorney, C.C. Dennis Ketchel, Town Manager. Date, January 10, 2019. Reference petition to revote Article 5 of the March 10, 2018 town meeting warrant. And it goes. I have been asked to review the opinion of Attorney Jed Davis on behalf of resident Ernie Rice that the refusal of the Board of Selectmen to take action on the petition to revote the decision on Article 5 of the 2018 town meeting warrant was unreasonable and may be subject the town to a special town meeting to be called by notary public. In short, the decision of the board was reasonable and within the discretion of the board. A special meeting is not required. Although 30-A MRS subchapter 2522 seems to use mandatory language that upon written petition, the municipal officers shall either insert a particular article in the next warrant issued or shall within 60 days call a special town meeting for its consideration, the law court has held that this language is permissive and the ultimate decision is still within the sound discretion of the municipal officers. And Dustin versus Town of York, 590A.2D 526, comment 527, ME 1991. Further, to sustain their burden that a revote is necessary and may be called upon petition to the notary public pursuant to Title 30A MRS, subchapter 2521, paragraph 4, the decision by the board not to call a town meeting must be unreasonable. In fact, a meeting called without unreasonable refusal by the select board has been held to be illegal. Allen versus Hackett, 123 ME 106 121A 906 1923.
Read the subject.
So in reading the subnote to, what was that subnote to?
Subnote 1.
Mr. Davis.
Sounds right after the word reasonable.
Okay, there's a subnote, and it says, Mr. Davis cites to Title 21A, Section 225-21, paragraph 4. There is no corresponding section in Title 21A. It appears that this is a typographical error and the correct language is found in Title 38. It goes on, Maine law does not compel the municipal board to revoke an action that has already been taken by the electorate simply because there is a petition by 10% of the voters held versus Administrative District number 74-387 A.2D 1,4 Maine 1978. And a vote called by the voters who had no particular injury beyond the rights of the general public and other residents failed because the voters lacked standing to call a special town meeting to reconsider a vote to appropriate money to construct a recreation center. Buck versus Town of Yarmouth 402 A.2D 860 ME 1979. The request by the petitioners here seems to be similar to the attempted vote to reconsider in the Buck case. Without having to decide the standing issue, the Belgrade Board does not appear to have acted unreasonably as alleged by Attorney Davis, and moreover was acting well within its discretion for multiple reasons, including, but not limited to, A, the issue voted on in March 2018 was final, and a revote on the 2018 action would be moot. As of the 2019 town meeting, the money appropriated in 2018 will have been spent, and a revote would be of no effect. B, the petition at issue specifically requested that the question be presented in November. It does not appear to say what year. The petition was not presented with signatures until approximately November 20th, 2018, too late for the general election in early November 2018. C, as Attorney Davis points out, funds for the library position in the library budget will be needed to be appropriated in March 2019. I understand that there will be an article to appropriate money for this purpose in March 2019. That does not require a revote for the 2018 decision, but is a new decision affecting the budget for 2019. In effect, this accomplishes the result requested by Attorney Davis and his client, whereas a revote of the 2018 decision would have no effect. It is my understanding that the board gave consideration to the language of the petition and the effect of the proposed vote. For the reasons set forth above, there is a substantial argument that what the board did was entirely reasonable and within its discretion. So this decision is not subject to a petition and vote to be called by notary law. Therein, that was all the information I have on the topic.
Got anything ready?
Well, I guess I would like to have the library director's job description read here for the record. Please bring it out and read it. Just read the last part of it.
Do we have it?
The second page.
Go get it.
Let's get it and do that part.
Can I
You can
ask
ask.
what that,
Ask the question.
what does that have to do with this particular,
Because
this particular thing?
because the select board never took a vote to make that a full-time position.
The select board took a vote to let the town make that a
No,
full-time
the,
position.
the select board voted to let the town fund the full-time position, which did not exist.
That's right.
The town does not decide.
There's only 5 people that run this town. You set all the job descriptions, you set all, whatever the guidelines, hours of operation, the voters do not do that. You people do that. You did not have the votes at the time, and the budget was put before us before it ever came before the select board to decide whether they want a full-time librarian or not. And if the vote had not passed, there would have been no article presented to the voter to raise the money. And you did not have the votes to do that. Rick Dameron, myself, and Gary Muller was opposed to a full-time librarian. And if you look at the town report, it clearly states that in the bottom. So there would have been no full-time position, and yet you put the article to the voter to raise money for something that did not exist. Then, after that, it was a real close vote. The person that runs the polls took a sign, a legal sign down out here that could have had an impact on the outcome of that. So you have several other issues here that I'm willing to take to legal and defend it. You've been approving a warrant for monies to a position that does not exist. That's part of my argument. All I'm asking for is You put an article before the voter, let's do it right this time. Approve the position as full-time if you feel it's necessary. And if it isn't necessary, then you should not be approving the article. And I can give you a little more history here. 3 years ago, roughly, the board, not as is set up here now, the library trustees came before the board as they are required to do and asked for a full-time, they wanted benefits for the librarian. That's how it came, because there was a need for benefits. That's how it was presented. Well, I put a lot of effort in, I did the research, I explained to the board, we held the meeting, there was a motion made, seconded, and we couldn't quite come to a conclusion to take a vote. And as I recall, Rick needed to think about it. So we come back in 2 weeks, and one of the ladies on the board of trustees was very upset because she had put a lot of extra effort in to doing more research to try to convince the board that, first off, she's the only director in town, department head in town, that was part-time and didn't get any benefits. Well, I would argue that also now, in looking at it, that the fire department chief gets no benefits. So he's a department head and he gets no benefits. So that argument didn't hold. But anyways, we took the vote and it was 4-1. And I want to point this out. Mike agreed that I was right, but he voted against it just because he was with the library. But I remember him saying that directly. You can listen to the recording. So that's all well and good. So at that point, the reason for a full-time librarian was because somebody needed benefits. So all of a sudden, 2 years later, it comes back. We get a new town manager, Denny. The committee didn't even come before the select board and request a full-time position. They took it to Denny. He just let them put it in the budget, which he shouldn't have done. He should have come before the committee, and the select board, you had the authority at that point to call a vote to make it full-time. And you know what? You didn't have the votes. Rick Dameron, myself, and Gary Muller was not going to vote for it. So you did an article to put it before the voter, let them decide. That's my argument. All I'm asking for here is just put another article before the voter, see if that's what they want to do. Let's just put it to rest, and I will go away.
Penny?
Well, first of all, I wasn't here for the entire statement, but when the Board of Trustees, which is your board, comes and asks for a warrant article to put on the warrant, that is up to the board to decide, not up to Dennis Cashel, the town manager, or any other town manager, to decide whether or not to limit it at that point in time. That board warrant article, it should be going into a draft budget that you have to approve. Last year, I had the same discussion with Ernie, and Ernie stated what he stated, and I told him exactly what I'm telling you now. And I told the board at that time. Last year, the board voted to put it out to the people. They recommended it to go out to the people. It was a what was the vote? The people voted. It was 3-4, 1 against, and 1 absent, or no, two absent. What was the board vote? 2 and 3. Well, no, I'm talking about, okay. But the board,
2 for, 3 against?
yeah,
That's right.
but the board voted for it to go out to the people. And then they recommended whether or not to approve it, and the vote was 2-3 against. But that was up to the people. The board let that go out to the people to decide, rather than have a board just say yay or nay. Even though they had the authority to do that, as Ernie pointed out. So that's how that went forward last year. I mean, so I believe that in terms of it going out to the people, that was your decision. You recommended against it as a board, but nonetheless, you recommended it to go out to the people, and the people decided. The sign aside, putting that issue aside, there are issues with the sign. We can go through that. I don't want to. That's not the purpose of tonight.
No, we're not going through it.
But the people decided to move this forward to a full-time position. What I understand the lawyer to be saying is putting that out to a revote is moot. The money was spent, it was approved, it was spent, and now there's another ballot question, referendum question, whether or not to approve a full-time librarian in this library budget. If that budget warrant article goes down, in other words, is defeated, the library is then, we'd go to the contingency article, which would shut the, which would essentially be enough money to close the library. But that's the issue that's before the voters, if you approve that warrant finally tomorrow night. So.
I guess,
Can I just say one thing? I'm not sure that the select board realized that they had to approve the position. I don't think the select board is shirking its duties if it doesn't follow the town government that we have here. The form of town government we have, you people make the decisions about the town. You don't put it off to the people. You ask the people if they want to spend the money, but you don't ask them, do you want a full-time librarian? So you didn't follow your procedure. You never approved a full-time library director position. You never changed the job description. I don't have the copy with me, but it says this job is 32 hours. So things weren't done properly, and that is an issue for the select board. You need to take responsibility and do what you're supposed to do, and not shirk it off on people and think you can reestablish a different way of government.
Thank you. I got Tenny, had his hand up yet?
Well, it's my failure that I didn't update the job description, but that doesn't void the vote.
Okay. Let me get the guy behind you.
Yeah.
State your name, please, would you?
Kelly Ryan, Oakland, friend of Belgrade residents. Here is a just interested party. Last name is R-Y-A-N. My question is regarding when the people of the town of Belgrade took a vote. How was the question worded? Did it say full-time with benefits, or did it just say full-time?
Yeah.
I think it's a pertinent question.
Go ahead.
So, to answer part two, full-time positions in the town of Belgrade do automatically generate benefits. That's part of the town policy.
You have the question.
The article actually read, to proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question: shall the town raise and appropriate the additional sum of $20,990 to provide for a full-time librarian and to increase the number of hours the library is open to the public?
Ernie?
again, see, that article is asking to raise money. It's not asking them to approve a position. The petition, you're misleading the voters. They step into the booth, they think the select board has approved a position. My other argument is, all of a sudden, the work can't get done, so they need extra hours. That's 3 years later, when the problem really was, somebody needed benefits. You know, I was on the board for 8 years, and I busted my butt for 8 years, and I always went by the rules. You know, when the fire chief came to the select board a few years back, they wanted to have a full-time fire person and rescue person.
Ernie, I'd like to get back to the.
Well, this is
Okay.
back to this is covering
I just
the
want to
same
stay on
thing.
the
Yeah, well,
straight
this
track.
is
Thank
just
you.
giving the history of how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
So the select board listened to that argument. There was a lot of discussion. There was no way we was going to decide on that. So we gave it back to the fire chief. He went back, got the numbers and everything else, brought it back to the select board to approve a full-time position so we could put it in his budget. And you know what? Those numbers made sense and it was approved 5-0. So the position existed and the select board put the article together and it went before the voters to raise the money for that position.
Okay.
We raised money for a position that does not exist. It never happened. That's my argument.
Thank you. Do we have the job description? Are you gonna?
Well, the job description, I think the point that Ernie was making is we're 32 hours.
That's right.
Okay.
And the point that I made is I have not updated that.
Okay, so that's fine.
Hi,
Diane Dowd, Chair of the Trustees. 3 years ago, Ernie is right, he did come to the, I was just coming on the board then. Last year when I spoke to the board, a lot of work has increased in 3 years. There were mandatory meetings, there are, a lot of things have gone on in the library. I came to the board with a whole list of activities that the librarian is involved with and presented that to the board for your discussion. It was wrong to say I didn't come to the board. I did come to the board with all that information, and you guys decided to, with the discussion with the budget, to go ahead with the giving it to the people.
Thank you. I want to try to get this put to bed,
All right,
because
well,
this is going to go on, no matter how we go with this, it's not going to die. I mean, it's,
Can I just say something
Sure,
about, I did some research.
This
And
is from the
I
library.
did research these are from the library director's reports.
okay,
I've read all of them from 2017 and from 2018. I wonder if any of you have read any of them.
probably
I
not.
think you get them.
Hang on, Barbara.
In 2016, the circulation out of that library, part-time mind you, 9,138 volumes. In 2017, 9,073 volumes. In 2018, 7,759 volumes. A decrease each of the last 2 years. Same with new patrons, 102, 74, 61. Special events and programs, I seem to remember one of the discussions was, with a full-time librarian, we can do more programming. Well, in 2017, there were 16 special programs, including the summer reading program. In 2018, there were 10. There are 3 regular programs that go on a regular basis, Storytime, Minecraft, and Book Club. I read those things. Now, just so that you know, the volume of people in the library, visiting the library per day, from July to December, in the summer when you'd expect it, 34 people a day in July, 39 in August, 23 in September, 18 in November, 18 in October, 13 in November and December. Pretty small amount to keep a librarian busy, plus an assistant. Do you know how many hours the assistant's scheduled to work every week? Anybody? 16 hours a week. The library's open 30 hours. So there's 10 hours of nobody in the library for the library director, and there are 16 hours when somebody else is there. Phone calls, minimal phone calls, minimum reference questions each day. I would like to know what the volume of work is that isn't represented by some of these numbers, and why there's a continuing decrease.
This is
Thank
from
you.
the library.
Barbara?
Barbara Allen, library trustee for the last year and a half. I feel that this type of attitude towards the library director's full-time position and the library in general has been extremely disruptive and detrimental to our town, and I would like to see this issue resolved tonight, if possible, and I would like us to move forward with a more civil discourse and less harassment of one particular position in our town.
Thank you. Diane?
To get back to Kathy's point, those are things the librarian does. We're, with the trustees, presented this article about a full-time librarian, meaning any librarian, future, whatever, but the bulk of the work needs a full-time librarian.
Thank you. Sir?
From my viewpoint, it is a civil discussion. I'm a complete outsider, although I have friends in Belgrade. And I think it is having a civil discussion right now.
Right.
And if everybody just takes a deep breath, lets it go, I think you're doing fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have just one last thing I'd like to say.
Okay, Ernie?
You do what you want. but I am suggesting this issue may cost us the library. One last thing. Kathy and I support the Friends of the Library who fundraise roughly, they fundraise and pay roughly $12,000 to maintain the library's building and grounds. Friends pay for the heat, the electric, the insurance, the building, insurance of the building, plowing, mowing, etc. I know you think I don't care, but you are wrong. I care about the library. Kathy does unbelievable amount of work for the library and everything else. We care about the library. We are very concerned because I can guarantee you one thing. The information that I have shared here tonight will be in the newspapers and it's going to be spread all over town and we're going to do mass mailings. We do not need, and if you people feel we truly need a full-time librarian, so be it. You take the vote and make it a full-time position and put it before the voter to raise the money. But until that is done, it's not legal.
Thank you.
I have no more to say.
Yes.
Wendy Dyer, also on the trustee on the board of the library. I just want to clarify, you can't just take the numbers that were presented from the various directors' reports as meaning that the library is not valued and not being used and that it does not require a full-time librarian. The numbers especially late in the year, December and November, we had a lot of snowstorms, it was very cold, people weren't going out. Having the library provides resources for people that can't afford internet, that don't have a computer and they need to be looking for jobs. It's a place to get resources and to make connections to services that people may need. So having it there, having it available is very important to many members in this community. 62% of the town has library cards for the residents of Belgrade. It is a very important resource. It is also my understanding that when the librarian was a part-time position, she was doing many hours over and above the 32 hours a week to keep up with the library and how the library should be run, and able to organize the various activities and events that go on there that include the public, and the count for how many programs there were last year was inaccurate as well. We had at least 16, I'm not sure if there was more than that, but there were many more programs. 87 programs. We had 87 programs. So anyway, I just, the numbers, you can't just throw numbers out there and not understand what's behind them. There's a lot of other things that come into play. People are accessing the library in various ways and what works for them. And I just want to go on record as saying that I think it's a very important resource. And I was not on the board last year when this came to town meeting. And I was very clear as to what that warrant was. And I agreed wholeheartedly with it. And I did vote my support for that to make it a full-time position. And that the person who has that job as the director could get paid for the hours they're actually putting in and we're donating to this town to have that valuable resource.
Thank you. Anybody on the board here wants to throw the...
Yeah, I want to say something.
Okay, go ahead.
If you know anything about the history of the library, it's grown from a shoebox to where it is now with town support and town involvement. And I just, on number one, I can't believe that there's a small group of people in this town who want to sit here and say they support the library, they support the library, they've always supported the library, but this might cost us the library, and I'm thinking, so at this point, the direction, the growth, the beauty that is our library, that we should be proud of in this town, is potentially going to go right in the toilet because of community involvement and support of people who claim to support the library but don't want the library, and we might lose it over this. I find that just amazing, just hard to believe. And so, and let me just say one other thing too. I mean, I'll just make a statement of fact. that a full-time position of the librarian had nothing to do with benefits for the librarian. It had everything to do with the fact that the librarian was working her butt off for the library. And she runs the place like NASA. I kid about that sometimes, but we have been so lucky and so proud to have a highly professional woman who's worked in libraries since she was 10 years old. This is the passion of her life. And I just can't believe that things have gotten to the point where she has been demeaned largely because she wanted to do her job and do the best she could for this town and this library.
Yeah, we're getting off track.
Well, I mean, I'm getting off track. We're talking about our hours, and we're talking about programs and so on and so forth. Hey, sometimes there's, the fire department doesn't fight fires some days. Should we cut the budget there? I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. And forgive me for going off the handle here, but I mean, I'm amazed that this is where we're at.
All right, I think we got the point.
Yeah.
I don't want your blood pressure to get too high.
Yep. Well, and one other thing.
I think what we're gonna do, I think we need to
Take a deep breath.
take a deep breath there, and we need to call the vote and see where we're gonna go with this.
What are we voting on?
What are we voting on?
There's no vote.
Well, either, it kind of is, because we got two different opinions here. We got two different lawyers
No,
talking.
we have an attorney who was essentially threatening us that we're gonna do it this way because you guys said no, and we have our attorney saying you absolutely acted with the discretion of the law.
That's how you interpreted it, but we have got two attorneys now that are gonna fight with each other. As far as I can see, this go on. So it's not gonna be
That
done.
won't cost the taxpayers any money.
Oh, yes, it will. There's no
I was
question.
being facetious with you.
Danny, go ahead.
Well, the issue and the reason why I brought it forward was that Jed Davis, Mr. Ernie's attorney, sent out a letter saying, well, if you don't act within a certain period of time, we're going to do a petition by notary public. I wanted to make sure you had information relevant to your decision that was made on December 11th to determine whether or not that decision was one that you felt was defensible, and that opinion was brought forward by our attorney, thinking it was defensible. So that the issue is whether or not, do you want to respond to Ernie's attorney in any way, or not? I guess he basically said in his letter, well, he did say in his letter,
You'll be expecting a response.
he said in his letter, if we fail to respond, unless I hear from you promptly, the article request of the petition will be put to vote on a secret ballot. So the question before you is, is he gonna hear from you promptly? I guess that's what
I'll make that motion. He should be here from us promptly.
Mike, hang on. Mike had his hand up.
I feel we would be incorrect of us to ignore the advice of our attorney. Mr. Davis, I happen to know is a good attorney, but he's not our attorney. He's obviously going to be biased in favor of his client. Nobody can say whether this action was reasonable other than a court. We haven't gotten that far yet, and I hope we don't get that far. But they can't have a notary call a town meeting unless there's a finding that our action was unreasonable. You can make the motion going, but I think we need to follow the advice of our attorney.
I agree with that.
Let me get Howard here.
I'm really not trying to fan a fire, but I do want to make a comment to Ernie's comments. And I don't know if you were on the budget committee at the time, but I can remember very specifically being at the Center for All Seasons on one of our Sunday morning Sunday all day budget discussions. And it was very specifically stated that the rationale for the request at that time for a full-time librarian was because the librarian was going to leave if she did not get full benefits. She needed full benefits. And I think at that time, the decision was made by the board not to put the position into a full-time position. She didn't leave, but the comments relative to the reason for a full-time position, initially, the first time I heard it as a member of the Budget Committee, first time I heard it was on that Sunday at the Center for All Seasons, when it was presented as, if we don't give her a full-time position, i.e. therefore will give her benefits, then she will leave. I took it as a threat, right or wrong, but that's what the genesis of that comment was, Ernie.
Okay. Mary, did you have something you wanted to say before?
I guess I'm wondering, we all love libraries here, so I don't really think that's the issue that we're concerned about, and we would love to see a library continue here in Belgrade, and that's no threat, but I think that the proper procedure, it would be nice to be proved that the proper procedure was followed. And if you guys can come up with that documentation or whatever it takes, why not? Why not settle it to rest right here?
Well, proper procedure, right? You have procedure, you have procedure. I believe, this is my understanding or my belief, that the board has the responsibility, the ability to put anything out to the voters. It's up to the voters ultimately. They're the legislative body. So the board could ask for anything virtually to go out to the voters. Should there be a board that's perplexed, deadlocked, can't make the decision or don't want to make the decision, they can put virtually anything out to the board.
But how did it read? How did it read again?
Well, we read it. So.
Can you read it again? Yeah.
That was the vote that we had at the town meeting.
Right.
We did have a vote after, at the board here, where we had to change the hours. Remember that? Because we changed the hours at the library.
Yeah, and I didn't, they submitted a schedule change, an hours change, and I didn't incorporate that into the library director job description.
And I specifically asked her if she was gonna have enough hours now to do a job. And, I can't remember what else I asked her, but I wanted to make sure she had plenty of time to do that job now. She wasn't gonna come back and say, I need somebody else to help me because I can't get it done. That was one of the things I remember asking specifically, and we did do the change of the hours.
Yeah.
But that was I think we waited a couple meetings after town meeting to do it, because I think
There were a couple of things that were being revisited at those first meetings, but I also believe we
I don't
didn't have
remember
a
exactly
synopsis
how I
at the
said
time.
it, but I remember doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't do it, he was the chair then.
I don't remember.
Did you want me to read the article?
Go ahead, read the article again, one more time, and then we're gonna
Article
move on
5.
here.
To proceed with the voting by secret ballot on the following question: shall the town raise and appropriate the additional sum of $20,990 to provide for a full-time librarian and to increase the number of hours the library is open?
Penny?
Didn't it cost us $30,000 for that extra 10 hours?
No.
It cost us 20.
I think less.
Can we?
I don't know the exact.
Yep, I mean, I'm gonna tell you, I want this thing put to bed one way or the other, and I can't see it gonna be put to bed until we have a vote.
I don't see
make a
more after
motion
this.
that the board responds to Attorney Davis, citing the response from our attorney.
Yeah.
He's requested a response, that is the response. At this point, for this warrant, moving forward, for March 2019, this is a dead issue.
I just want to insert one thing
I'll second that.
before I
They
leave.
moved to second.
You can do whatever you guys want to do, but I'm going to tell you one thing right now.
You're out of order.
I may be out of order,
He's
but
not really, because we can still discuss this now,
you can put the issue to rest just by having a vote. You vote to make it a full-time position like you're supposed to, put it before the voters to raise the money, and then it's a dead issue.
Dick, you had your hand up, that's the last question we're gonna have, we're gonna move on.
I would recommend against replying to the attorney. You've already taken an action. If you take no further action, and there's not a prompt reply to the attorney, he's described exactly what's gonna happen. They're gonna try to call a special meeting. Let that happen. Then, if that in fact happens, you can take action in opposition to it. That's the way to settle it. You're not gonna settle it by having communication.
It's gonna be a lawyer's game back and forth, cost the town a lot of money.
I'll withdraw
It
my
may
second.
cost money, but it'll settle.
My motion.
Okay, so what are we doing?
No response.
No response. I make a motion that we do not respond.
I'll second that one.
Okay, any discussion on this?
Did Robert's rules, did you withdraw your other motion?
Yes, it did.
Yes.
Yeah.
We follow protocol.
Okay, I'm gonna call the vote. I'm gonna call the vote here and, that we're not gonna respond to that, or you guys aren't gonna respond to it. I'm gonna stay with Ernie, because I wanna put this thing to bed. It's not gonna go away. I'm gonna tell you right now. I've told people this and told them it was gonna keep coming back and haunting. And here we are again. I think, my personal feeling, we need to have the vote over, get it put to bed, it's done. If you don't think you're gonna win it, I mean, I don't know how you couldn't win it, it's gonna happen, but it's not gonna go away, I'm telling you right now. But you guys do what you want. I'm calling the vote right now, all in favor? I guess I'm gonna vote for not to respond to the lawyer, but thank you.
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, you can.
This is more addressed to Ernie.
Just
I
quick.
do not, I'm sorry,
No, just do it.
I'll do it quick.
Yeah, thank you.
I am insulted that you dare to say we don't care about the library. We have worked.
Okay.
We have put in time in.
I don't wanna
for
get into
7
that.
years.
I'm sorry. Thank you,
You don't need to disparage us.
thank you.
That's not what it's about.
Thank you very much.
And that's what you were doing.
I'm not gonna resign.
We don't need, that's enough. All right. Melanie, let's hear some good stuff.
What do you want to hear?
No, the other Melanie. Sing us a song,
I'm gonna
Melanie.
sing a little ditty.
I emailed everybody the final revenue, expense and revenue reports, and the general ledger shows what we actually have in cash. We do come in under our expenses.
I did look at it when I got in there. I didn't get it on,
So if anybody has any questions.
no, I think you're looking good.
We're under. Under budget.
It looked like everybody is too. Anybody got any questions on that? Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, just one question.
Yep.
If the old town office is sold at whatever price, this year, we have most of the year ahead of us, will that affect the budget for this year? I believe that the money is dedicated to go into the
Town office,
town
correct?
office
Yes.
cost. So that will.
So it could,
That
yes.
will help to pay that down.
Unless it's sold before March, we can do it on the floor. If we put it before the voters that we're raising that money, then it'll be next year, we'll have to use that money.
So it'll be another year from now?
Right.
Okay, I guess it'll be a year from now.
When it would affect it.
Melanie?
Okay, so I have a question. Looking at this, our unexpected balance is $228,714.37.
Which one's that?
So this
This
is our
one.
final total under our expense summary report. Now, our budget increase this year was $225,000 over last year, give or take. The actual budget, if approved, all the warrant articles. So this $228,000, the way it stands right now, is anything that is not designated to go specifically to something else.
Well, at this point in time, like some of the fire department's budget gets put in their capital reserve, and that hasn't been done yet. So we don't have $228,000 until detail, the auditor's done hers, and we transferred all of that money.
Okay, so if we have, say, 160,000, and the way it stands right now is that 168,000, would go to the undesignated fund. And then do we have a warrant article presented that says that the select board is authorized to take any monies out of the undesignated fund and apply it to the current year's budget? We used to have that warrant article, and
We didn't have one for the last years.
Well, because we didn't have an excessive amount of money. The auditor recommends that we keep 3 months of expenses. So we hadn't had that 3 months of expenses on hand. I think that once this year is done, we'll have just about 3 months of expenses. So it's a decision that we can make when we get the total amount for the undesignated fund. We could probably do it in our town meeting to offset the total budget, if you wanted to do that.
I'm just thinking if we've got it and we've got our surplus, I mean, in years past, I remember when I first came on the board, we had multiple millions of dollars sitting in the undesignated fund, and for a number, we did, it was over $1 million.
We were building the undesignated fund, so that we could offset the team, so we didn't have to go on, but you're right, I'm not disagreeing with that, but multiple millions is.
Well, we did, I'm not saying like 25 million, but we had $1 million set aside for this, and it got to be over the next couple of years, that we took a certain percentage of that and applied it to the reduction of property taxes.
We had that discussion just today, and I was asking her about that potential. She said, well, right now, we don't know exactly what we're at, but we're close to what the recommended 3 months are. So we came to a conclusion, it's up to you ultimately, but we came to the conclusion that this year we let it float, and then perhaps next year we would do it. So, but that's up to you.
Howard?
2 things. In theory, I guess not only I agree with you, but I also remember, I think it was August a couple of years ago, sitting here and listening to, we don't have enough cash on hand to pay the bills. We gotta split it up and send the school payment over a couple of times and hope that we have enough cash to get through. So, that they don't cross it. So I think that the recommendation of the auditor is a sound one, to have that money in reserve. While I would love to have it reduce the taxes, I think that's what
we talked about. I mean,
the other question that I had is kind of an annual thing, and just to get a clarification from Ellen, that the monies that were listed in the town report last year for the trusts is what you're going to be taking from the trust? Because you said you've been paying it out of the general fund, and you're gonna take that, so when I put the numbers together on that final report for the trust activities, I can say that what they spent last year was the amount that was in there. The only question I have is we gotta get the BC Stevens Fund account number correct. Because the school thinks it's a different number than what we think it is. So we can get together on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the
You
only
can,
other
you have
question
1 second.
the only other thing I have to say about using money to offset taxes is I think that our increase in the budget is very low this year. So if we take money out of the undesignated fund to lower the taxes, the mill rate could go down lower than what we had last year, but we don't have that money next year, so then we have this huge increase the following year in taxes. And, right, so we want to try to keep it stable.
Yes.
Good point, good point.
Thank you.
Well, honestly, I'd love to see a couple of years where we stay very stable, because we were able to do that for a number of years. And we're constantly, it's creeping.
Yep.
But doesn't the school budget overwhelmingly affect the municipal budget when it comes to calculating the tax rate?
When it comes to commission.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have county, and we're this tiny little piece down here, is the only one that we really have
16% of your
control of.
taxes.
Exactly.
I think it is.
So
16 or 17, I can't remember.
Last year's school was 75%, if I'm not mistaken, and the county was lower than the town, and that was up on 60.
Yeah,
Yeah.
75.
So I was close.
last year when I looked up.
All right. Any other questions on this, Melanie? Seeing none, let's move on. Next thing, we have letters of resignation.
No, appointments.
Oh, wait a minute, no.
Appointments.
Appointment, sorry. Appointment for Barbara Allen. for a library trustee
It's a renewal.
renewal. It's just a renewal?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Then moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Welcome back.
Thanks for doing it again, girl.
Yeah. All right, now I guess we can get to the letter of resignation.
No, I still need Lonnie.
Library positions.
I got one?
There's
Lonnie
one
Carlson.
in our book.
They were written, those were the add-ins, they're in your book.
I got them. I got 3 of them.
I don't have them in my book.
Well, you're gonna have them in a minute.
Because you had your book with you.
Well, you
Lonnie,
know,
Lonnie
I
Carlson
picked it
is
up.
also. Lonnie,
Those are the
you're
ones that
applying,
you
aren't
sent
you?
by email. You sent them by email.
Does it say Lonnie Carlson?
I don't have it in mind.
Yeah, I had it and I've read it, and I don't know where it is.
It is an email, I believe. I don't think we have a hard copy.
That could be weird.
No, I don't have it.
What's on the table? That's what I
You want this?
All right, set.
No, she's.
I know.
Okay,
I move approval.
all right. We're gonna move your approval on it right off the bat. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on it? Seeing none, all in favor? Welcome back.
No, she's new.
Oh, no.
She's new.
We're trying to get her to do this.
I think we
She's
should
gonna be on the
thank,
select board next.
we should thank them for taking on this.
Well, I think they're probably gonna get thanked.
Well, I think
Well,
we
they're
should,
done.
I think we should.
Thank you guys very much for taking that on.
Alright.
There is one more?
Hold on.
For the library?
Kate Goller.
All right, so
Oh,
I
you're
make a
right.
motion
Kate Gall,
that we approve
okay.
the appointment of Kate Gall to the
Second the
library
motion.
trustees.
I didn't have that in mind either, but, all right. Do I hear
I
a second on that?
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on it?
Thank you.
Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you guys very much for taking on this challenge, I should say, for now. All right, now can I get to the letters of, you wanna do that?
Well, I can go forward.
Go ahead, take it.
Well, we do have some letters of resignation. Unfortunately, our librarian Janet Patterson has decided to leave. And, so we are in the process now of working with Diane, you should have the job description, and working that out so we can put out an ad for the librarian. The board of trustees is working to make sure that the library is functional. So that's going on. Karen Childs has resigned as the local health officer.
Let's do one of these at a time, I guess.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, so-
So, do I hear a motion for Janet?
I make a motion that we accept your resignation.
We accept it with regret.
Yeah, with
Yes,
regret.
with regret. Thank you very much.
Extreme regret.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah.
Been moved and seconded? All in favor? Janet, thank you, and I'm gonna miss you.
Our local health officer, Karen Childs, submitted her letter of resignation. I'm working hard to get another person, and I think the individual whose wife happens to be here might actually sign on. I'm talking with Chance Carlson, who's our school nurse, so.
Are you pushing him high? Okay.
But he'd make a great.
I'll talk to him too.
Yeah, I
he'd
know,
make a great local health officer.
I have another candidate also.
Okay, good.
Okay, so we need a motion on this one,
I'll make that motion
with regret?
with regret.
I'll second it. Moved and seconded. Any discussion or anything on it? If not, all in favor?
Question?
Oh,
Is the salary of the health officer appropriate to the job's duties?
I don't know that.
$400 a year, I believe is what we pay the health.
Well,
officer.
we have paid, yes, and that hasn't gone up for as long as I can remember.
What I asked.
And it's a position, you can talk to Karen, it doesn't require a huge amount of work. I think she was involved in 2 or 3 cases, and so it's, but that's where it's been. And I think the positions of virtually all of our other kind of paid folks haven't changed for years.
Just type.
I don't need an answer, I just wanted to put the question on the table.
Do you have a job description for?
It's just been a stipend for years, I think, like you.
We have the state description of what a local health officer is responsible for, yes.
Okay, so we're taking the vote on that. All in favor? 5, thank you. Kathy, is the next one?
Yes, Kathy Sears, who's been on the transfer station recycling committee for some period of time, has resigned.
Somebody wanna make a motion on
I'll
it?
move it. Move
With
approval.
regret?
Second regret. Seconded.
Okay,
Do you ever accept these without regret?
I was gonna say.
well, probably when I leave.
When you leave, thank God.
That's right. Whatever. Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
Can I make a motion that we send a letter from the town of Belgrade recognizing each of these folks?
Yeah, I was gonna,
We have a certificate.
Yes.
I was gonna say, long time employees, we usually do more than just a letter.
And we give a certificate.
So I didn't wanna be too hopeful, I didn't know if that had changed.
No, okay.
Well, in some cases, we've actually given a plaque.
Okay, we're gonna move right on to the warrant again.
Well, I do have a couple issues that I wanna
All right,
bring up. KQ4 sent a letter today
oh, yeah.
requesting that if any municipal official would like to be nominated for the Maine Municipal Association's seat on the Maine Education Policy Research Institute Steering Committee, which is a steering committee set up by the legislature. So they're willing to accept nominees. If you're interested in being nominated, just fill out the form and I'll send in the names.
I'm on it like a
Or if
hawk.
you have someone that might be interested in being on that steering committee, we can fill out the name and get it in. But, the other thing is, you have a draft letter that does not have to be acted on tonight. It's a letter that I spoke to the dam committee last night about. It's a letter essentially asking for the Board of Environmental, well, the Department of Environmental Protection to remove a requirement in the water level order that's been effective for some 35 years now, I think. 36 years. Essentially, removing a requirement for the mandatory minimum flow through the Winsville Dam of 8 cubic foot per second. The reason why this request is being made is because there's 12 cubic feet per second that were required at the time that this board order was issued to dilute the pollution, 0.48 million gallons per day of treated wastewater that was going into Messalonski Stream. And they portioned that across watersheds, and 8 cubic foot per second was what was supposed to come out of the Long Pond watershed. That treatment plant is no longer in operation. Back in 2011, they hooked it up to the sanitary district. So that letter, I asked the DM committee if they were okay with it, and the board, it has to come from the owners, right? So the town of Belgrade owns it, so that's why I will present it to you for the decision next week, unless you choose to do it.
I don't see any problem with it, we can get it done tonight, get it.
And if you want, I'll sign that letter for you guys, or you can.
I don't see any problem with it, it's pretty simple, just changing the wording a little bit. So, I'd make a motion to go ahead and do this.
I'll second it.
Let's put it, get rid of it. Okay, all in favor?
Okay. The third thing is, I understand that a couple folks will be here at the next meeting potentially, so we might have to discuss a change in the.
Mike and I aren't gonna be here. I'm gonna be in Boston, he's gonna be suffering with his shoulder, right?
I've got surgery on the 1st, yeah.
So, I guess my question is, do you guys wanna do it on the 5th? There's 3 here, or do you wanna postpone it a night and I'll be back the next night? I'm having a heart catheterization that day.
You didn't give them your schedule?
You know,
Sorry, I'm busy that evening.
You didn't say I can't come?
I really didn't wanna change anything, I wanna get this done, so.
So we'd be looking at doing it Wednesday instead of Tuesday?
If that's fine.
Do we have another?
What's the date? What's the date?
17th,
The meeting was
16th
on
to
the 5th,
17th.
we change it to the 6th.
The 6th, I know what I'm talking about.
I could change it to the 6th.
We could do the
That
6th.
works for everybody?
Yep.
Mike still may not be here. He may not be
I
here.
won't be here, I may not be here at all in February, and
Yeah.
remains to be seen if I can make the next one.
Okay.
All right, so I'll make that motion.
We're moving it to the 6th of February?
From February 5th to February 6th.
Okay.
We'll notice it on the town website and.
Yeah. So,
I can do that.
you guys all set with that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, it'll be the 6th. That all you got now on that? All right, now let's get to the warrant.
Just do.
Rick, can I just make a statement from
Sure.
the Board of Trustees? Board of Trustees for the library regrets the circumstances that resulted in the librarian's resignation, and an individual's right to freedom of speech does not make harassment and bullying acceptable behavior. We will work with the town manager and the select board to ensure that the library personnel are treated with the dignity and respect that all citizens deserve.
Thank you. Okay. Do you wanna read the minutes? I mean, the warrant. The warrant, gee. I'm right out to lunch.
All right, warrant number 6 in the amount of $595,909.48.
Is that the first one?
That's the one we just got tonight.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
All right,
Wait.
that's the second one, in my book.
Well, warrant number 6 is the one we're talking about.
Do I hear a second on that?
Second.
I got a few questions. Right on the first page, on the check number is 18,346. It says a fuel filter, $345.
Okay, so, this Belgrade Mechanical, it was for the GMC, he did, there was water in the fuel filter and he checked the codes for the GMC. So the labor was $180, $90 for diagnostic tool, and it looks like parts, diesel conditioner was $75.23. No, that wasn't through the artist, through this Belgrade Mechanical.
Who's Belgrade Mechanical? Who is that?
First,
some of them-
Shabari.
Yeah. Too much money.
He's a
Whatever.
mobile mechanic.
Yeah.
Are we not using Walter Plant?
We do.
No.
We do use wall.
But he can't always get you in.
Yeah, sure enough.
All right, the next one I have is, it looks like Brightside Marina again. The next one down is 18,347, and it looks like $3,000 bill. What did we do this time? The lawyer again. I mean, this is just,
Well, again, there's in fact, I was gonna update you on this, the Brightside Marina is going to court. They
Yeah.
appealed the decision of the appeals board, to the Superior Court, and that's preparation for the Superior Court. Oral arguments will be on January 29th at 9 o'clock at the Augusta.
I did see that.
Yeah.
So,
All right, that answers that question.
by the way, I just want you, that is an action that's looking to have a decision of the appeals board in the planning board, or essentially the appeals board, overturned. So we are having our attorney basically defend the appeals board decision. So,
Okay.
Part of that, would we get some of our legal fees back?
not on a defense like that, no.
No, this is gonna, whatever. I don't wanna get into it. I'm not gonna get into it again. I said my piece a couple times, but anyway, let's go to page number 3. And it's second one down, it's R.H.R. Smith and Company, field work.
Those are, there's field work.
That doesn't come under, that doesn't come into the RJD appraisal guy?
No, the appraiser is our assessor.
Okay.
So these are our auditors, these are the ones that do the end of the year auditing on the town.
Okay, I guess I can't do anything about that. I think that's all I had. Mike?
Just explain on that same page, what's the difference between Spectrum Business and Spectrum Enterprise?
Computers, phones?
Well, we used to be, Time Warner Cable.
Yeah.
So a lot of our accounts were on Time Warner, and then when we had, right, and then, so we had one that's a separate billing, and so they asked me to pay different places, and they couldn't put it together, I don't know.
We had, well, we had a huge billing issue for almost 9 months, almost a year, trying to straighten it out. In the end, I think that one billing on the Spectrum Enterprise, isn't that for the phone that we have here? The special phone that we're required to have. And the other one, the Spectrum Business, is for the other accounts. So, they're now Charter Communications, by the way.
Charter? They've moved.
Doing business as
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Charter has always been the holding company, anyway.
Okay, so that answered that question, Claudia. Anybody else got any other questions?
I just have one, there's two different dispatch costs here, water bill and the state. The state is police, and the water bill one is for fire, is that what it is?
Fire and EMS.
Fire and EMS, okay, I just wanted to make sure I had the.
Well, there's a, I don't know if you want me to go into that now or in my updates.
Your updates are fine. I know the state police one's gonna change after March, right?
Be careful.
You don't have to press.
Yep, that's it, that's all I have.
Nobody else got anything?
No, sir.
Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you.
Thank God I already signed.
No. All right, to the next
Second
one.
warrant we have is warrant number 163, total amount of $25,757.72.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I don't think I marked anything at the hand.
I do.
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
First page, Augusta Fuel, we got 1, 2, 3, 4 LP gas deliveries, all to the garage. Looks like all about the same time. What's happening there?
Three different,
Those are charities?
there's three different, tanks that run three different houses, right, or three different
Right,
entities.
just one of the.
Generator, one apartment, and the other apartment, right?
It says garage.
Says.
Well, the tanks are at the garage, but they're,
12/6, 12/14, 12/21, and 12/28, it looks like they come out every week into it.
They probably do, that thing does use gas.
Okay.
It should.
And if we're supplying all of those places, why don't we have a couple of big tanks?
Go ahead, Mike.
We have on page 3, Irving Oil, number 18335, two of them. Who do we have our contract with for
We have
oil?
it with the Augusta Fuel.
This is for gas,
Oh,
like
this is
gas,
gas,
gas
that's
and
right.
diesel
Fuel,
for the fire
yes.
trucks and the trucks.
All right, thank you, that's all I need to know.
There was a notice that just went out, they're gonna start using the state garage again, because the state garage is less money now than Christie's, so. For now. Just to let you know.
Maybe we've been going down to Christie's with the fire equipment.
Yeah, that's where they gas it up and fuel it up.
I've never seen this, so I really ask. Thank you. I'm done.
Anybody else got anything?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor? Thank you. All right, I guess we go right to the town manager's updates.
So Danny did put on his list, we're looking to get better tanks.
What's that?
Because didn't we originally had to have tanks taken out?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so, okay, I sent you a list of the individuals who passed away during the past year through December 31st. I just sent it out today in the mail. And what I'm asking you to do, I've highlighted, it's a PDF document, so I've highlighted the ones that I think you might want to look at to see whether or not we should ask their relatives to write a memorial. So I'm asking you to look at those, seeing if you agree. I generally look at those people that have been involved in town community activities, things like that. So please look at those and get those, any information or input you have back to me, and then we can start working on that for the annual report. We got a letter from the BLA thanking everyone for thanking the town, I should say, for the money that was given to the milfoil effort in the past year. Just to update you on Raise the Floor, I talked to you about the minimum receiver towns and this bill that was going to go forward to help on minimum receiver towns offset tax burdens, because of the way the formula works. That has been submitted. Senator Mark Lawrence from Southern Maine has signed on as the Senate sponsor. I'm the co-sponsor, and there's other co-sponsors too, but I'm the lead co-sponsor, so we'll be working to see that that goes through the process. We'll be looking for people to look at the bill and maybe come and testify in favor of it. There are 6 people that we foreclosed on. I'm going to be reviewing those foreclosures and coming forward with recommendations on how to handle those. Hopefully we can get some of those paid off before they come to you for a final decision on what to do. So that's that. Go ahead.
On that, Denny, is there anything, are there any of those that are gonna be impacted by the?
Yes. If we proceed with sale. We're talking about the new law.
The foreclosure and lien process.
We have to follow a new foreclosure lien process. It was in the, I briefed you on that once before when the letters come out.
Yes.
There was an article in the Maine Townsman. It's kind of more complex, and it's targeted to ensure that the town doesn't reap the benefits of someone's home after it's sold. So it's trying to protect the homeowner to the extent that it can. Okay, I talked to you about that. Okay, the Belgrade Fire Department. Oh yes, on January 2nd, I think you probably remember, there was a tanker fire down in front of the post office.
You seem to heard something about that.
That was a big event. I think the town fire department did an outstanding job, as always. I'm sure that there are critiques that can be done. I think that they've already had a critique session. I don't know if you want to do something to recognize that effort or not. That's something that you can think about and let me know. Along with that, the postal workers, there was 2 of them that pulled the individual out of the truck. The post office has already recognized them. I didn't know whether you thought that we might want to do that. I invite your comments on that, and we can do something with that. Just get it to me, and then we can do something, and maybe if you want to, then give it for you.
If they're not, are they town residents? And if so, they qualify for the Spirit of America Award. But if they're not town residents, can we give a Spirit of America Award?
I believe you can.
You can give a, yeah, you can give that. But you
We've
can
given-
award anyone,
Yeah,
you can
we-
recognize anyone that you believe deserves recognition.
As far as Spirit of America goes, we've given some Rome residents in your absence. We've given, got a lot done with you out here.
Yeah, okay.
Auburn?
I would just like to say that the more people can be recognized for what they do by the town, the better.
Absolutely.
The Spirit of America Awards nomination sheets have been out for over a week. I think we got something up. I think we got something up on the website, and we're going to be posting it in the, I think the newsletter, maybe not, but we're trying to get that out.
Yeah, I just meant even something as simple as a letter of
Or appreciation.
acknowledgement from the select board.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Spirit of America is actually supposed to go volunteer, so if it's a town employee, for instance, and some other, a letter or something like that would be more appropriate.
The, is it there?
No.
Certificates are nice too.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Oh, that's the, I'm pretty sure I asked you to put that up.
Yeah, and that was the other thing that we were hoping to maybe get in the actual newsletter, so that people could tear it off and send it in.
The next issue, the Belgrade Rome Fire Department merger kind of meeting. The next meeting, the second of the meetings that we've held, will be at 6:30 at the Rome Fire Department. I encourage everyone that wants to go, 6:30 on January 28th. It's a Monday night. We're gonna schedule the last Monday of each month.
I gotta check my schedule, see when I'm on
So-
again.
Which firehouse do they use? The one near the school or the one down the hollow?
I believe it's the one where the town office is.
Yeah, I think that's one.
That's the main fire.
Well, it used to be the school, I should have said.
I talked to you about the oral arguments on Brightside, that's on January 29th. I plan to go there unless I have something that disrupts that. I've asked Gary if he wanted to attend. I just want to hear the arguments, so I can bring it back to you and relay all the more details. we are continuing an action with Stephen Jones down on
Thank you.
Sandy Cove. The reason why that consent agreement hasn't been moved forward is because we had an intercession on the part of the neighbor. And rather than having to go to court to battle this stuff out, we decided to let the two neighbors, the offender and the next door neighbor, work out a solution that we could put into a consent agreement so that we don't have any, let them pay their legal fees. We'll just treat them out.
Thank you.
And dispatch. As you know, the RCC has sent out a letter saying, the RCC, Regional Communications Commission, the state police in Augusta, has sent out a letter saying they're no longer going to service dispatch calls for local law enforcement at their facility. And there's a long, drawn-out discussion and reasons why. They use one software program, Kennebec Sheriff's Office uses another, and never the twain shall meet. To get them to meet, it's about $390,000 the state doesn't want to pay. So there's been this ongoing discussion, I believe I referenced it to you once before in the budget meetings. There's this ongoing discussion about where do we get our dispatch services for law enforcement, local rural law enforcement. Augusta is wanting to take that on. There's ongoing discussions because of this date. I've talked to Cliff, the state guy. I've talked to Cliff, and he said we're not going to stop you on July 1st if in fact we don't get this settled. I've also talked to a number of other folks, and I believe the town managers are going to meet with the new, or not newly nominated, not yet confirmed, public safety commissioner. The issue really is, why are 26, 27 towns? We got 3 towns in the county that essentially do their dispatch in all that. Waterville, Augusta, and Winford. So the other towns have to rely and go someplace else. So we go to Somerville, we go to Waterville, and we had the RCC. Right? The question is why? Why are 26 towns, or 25 towns, whatever the number is, I think it's 26. Why are we out there every year or two doing all of the transaction costs in terms of getting a new dispatch agreement for this, finding out what the price is? We got 26, why can't the county take it back where it used to be? So one of the issues that I've talked to our county administrator about is just that. Why can't we just put it back, let it go back where it used to be, and fund it through the county taxes? So I don't know where it's going to turn out. I don't think we have to worry about losing our dispatch. We'll have dispatch until it gets resolved. It may end up that we submit a bill that essentially forces the issue. It may be that we all come to agreement. But right now, there's a lot of confusion and discussion and concern going on. So that's the dispatch issue. We put in the money that we believe would pay our share of, if everyone went to Augusta. There's no other place to go to, by the way, unless you go to Lincoln County or someplace else, but it's difficult. So anyhow, that's an ongoing discussion. And so your question about to dispatch, we do. We have Somerset for our PSAP. There are some PSAP calls that get to the RCC. They'll continue answering PSAP with no charge. The rural law enforcement dispatch went through the RCC. That's currently being discussed where to go. And then the fire department and the EMS dispatch comes out of Waterville. So that's why you're seeing them in charge. And with that,
it's a screwed up mess.
Oh my God, I guess.
I want to try to call them.
oh,
Well,
I
now
won't go there
you're
because
gonna
that's a
be able to
separate
do
issue.
it, text it from your phone, there's gonna be,
Even worse.
it's gonna be even more chaotic.
So anyhow, that's my.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody else got anything that they'd like to talk about tonight before we're gonna go to an executive session, but seeing none, I would entertain. Janet?
Request a 5-minute break to get our trustees sworn in this evening? Oh, I have to leave that one, so, okay. I didn't know if you had to stay till you go.
Nope. She has to leave. Thank you very much.
Need a 5-minute break anyway.
We're gonna I'll take a
10-minute break.